Good morning, students. Today I am going to start a new lesson, sense organs. This is the last lesson in your bio syllabus. And yesterday I was discussing about the reflex action in nervous system. So let's start sense organs. All living organisms respond to physical and chemical changes in the environment. We all have special cells called receptors, which receives stimuli from the environment. Some of these are contained in the sense organs. The major sense organs in our body are the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and skin, which are sensitive to light, sound, smell, taste, and touch, respectively. These organs are directly connected with the brain. All these organs are directly connected with the brain. Now, stimulus. Stimulus is a physical event that affects an organism and excites its receptors to bring about a change in its activity that I have already discussed in the previous chapter. For example, mechanical stimuli, pressure and touch, chemical stimuli, taste and smell, and thermal stimuli, heat and cold. Sensation is a general term. It is a general state of awareness of stimulus. And receptors is any or receptor is any specialized tissue or cell sensitive to a specific stimulus. The sensory cells that receive a stimulus from the environment are the receptors. Some common type of receptors in our body are: number one, mechanoreceptors. These are the receptors for touch, pressure of skin due to mechanical change. So this is a mechanoreceptors. The second one is a chemoreceptors, which is related to the chemicals. So receptors of taste of the tongue and smell of the nose due to chemical influences. These receptors respond to chemicals. Then photoreceptors. These photoreceptors respond to light, and these are the photoreceptor cells, that is rods and cones of the retina of eye, and they respond to light. Then thermoreceptors. Thermoreceptors are the heat and cold receptors in the skin due to change in the temperature. Then phonoreceptors, receptors for the sound and hearing. So these are the different types of receptors in our body. Now, there are only two sense organs in our course, that is eye and ear. Rest of the sense organs are not in your syllabus. So first we will discuss about the eye. The eyes, the sense of sight. There are accessory structures of the eye, and these are orbits, eyelids, eyebrows, tear glands. So in this case, you can see in the eye, this is the structure of the accessory structures of the eye. These are not the main structure of the eye. These are the accessory organs or accessory parts of the eye. Number one is the orbit. You can see orbits. The two eyes are located in a deep socket or orbits on the front side of the head, deep cavity like structure in which the eyeball is fitted, and this is known as orbit. The orbits, each eye is in the form of a ball and can be rotated with the help of a six muscles in the orbit, in its own orbit. The second one is eyelids. You can see these are the eyelids, but these eyelids are again not the structure of eye. The upper and the lower movable eyelids protect the outer surface of the eyes and can shut out light. So these are the eyelids, the upper eyelid and the lower eyelid. And these upper and lower eyelids, these are movable. So in this way, they can protect the outer surface of the eyes and can shut light if there is a uh, more light coming to the eyes. Then these eyelids, or with the help of these eyelids, the person can close eyes. Each eyelid carries outwardly curved or outwardly projecting eyelashes which prevent falling of large particles into the eye. So these are the eyelashes, the hair-like structures which are curved outwardly, and these eyelashes, they prevent the falling of any particles into the eyes. Next is eyebrows. Next part is eyebrows. So these eyebrows, these are the eyebrows which are uh, virtually not a part of the eye, yet these are also protective. They are the arched structures just above the eye, and these prevent the raindrops or the trickling perspiration from getting into the eyes. So the raindrops or the drops of perspiration or sweat cannot directly fall into the eye just because of this structure eyebrow, because it is somewhat raised portion above the eye. Then tear glands. The next last part is a tear glands. So here these are the tear glands, and are located at the upper sideward portion of the orbit. This eye is fixed into the orbit, and here it is a tear gland which is located at the upper and sideward portion of the orbit. Here 6 to 12 ducts of the gland pour the secretions over the front surface of the eye. So these mm, tear glands, they are collectively known as lacrimal glands or lacrimal apparatus. These are the group of glands that manufacture and pour the tears, or lacrima, that is tears. This lacrimal gland is a compound gland located at the upper sideward portion of the eyelid. Each lacrimal gland gives 6 to 12 excretory lacrimal ducts which empty their or which pour their secretions into to the surface of the conjunctiva or in the front surface of the eye. From here it passes to the lacrimal canals. This is a lacrimal arc, and this is a lacrimal, these are the lacrimal ducts or lacrimal canals. So here 6 to 12 lacrimal ducts are there, and then these lacrimal ducts, they pour their secretion into the larger lacrimal canal. From here it passes to lacrimal canals and then into the lacrimal duct. So these are the lacrimal canals, and then they are passed into the lacrimal ducts. From here nasolacrimal duct, this is a nasolacrimal duct which connects the nose with the eye, and this nasolacrimal duct conducts the secretion into the nasal cavity of the nose. The tears or the lacrimal secretion is very watery fluid containing salt, some mucus, and bactericidal enzymes called the lysozymes. So this is the tear, and it is a watery fluid which is somewhat salty in taste, and it contains uh, enzyme lysozyme, which is antiseptic or and bactericidal in nature, which kills the germs. The After being secreted, it is spread over the surface of the eyeball. This When tears are secreted, they spread over the surface of the eyeball and serve as a lubricant. Now there are functions of tears. Number one, it lubricates the surface of the eye, so it acts as a lubricant, and also washes away dust particles. That is, it also cleans the front surface of the eyeball by washing away dust particles. It also moistens the eye or the eyeball, help in killing the germs by secreting the enzyme lysozymes contained in the tears, and this enzyme lysozyme kills the germs. Tears also help in communicating the emotions. So when you are very sad, when you are very happy, tears uh, comes out, and in this way the person can communicate their emotions. Then conjunctiva. Conjunctiva is another accessory part of the eye. It is a thin membrane. This is a thin membrane. You can see it is a conjunctiva, the outer brown part. So it is a thin membrane that covers the entire front part of the eyeball. Front part, which is visible in the front part of the eyeball and lines the inside of the eyelids. It is reduced to a single layer of transparent epithelium over the cornea, and on the front side, just above the cornea, it becomes a single layer of transparent epithelium. Now, sometimes the surface of the eye is exposed to various pollutants, infections, and allergic reactions. The conjunctiva turns red due to viral infections, and this condition is known as conjunctivitis. Okay, now come to the next topic, is structure of the eyeball. In this case, the eyeball of or the wall of the eyeball consists of three layers. That is, the outer sclerotic layer, the middle one is the choroid layer, and the third, the inner one, is the retina. Now come to the first layer, that is a sclerotic layer. This is sclera, the outer layer, and when you draw the diagram of the eye, you have to draw two lines to show the layer. If you draw one line, single line, then it will not become a layer. So this is a sclera or the sclerotic layer. It is the outer tough coat of the eyeball made up of mainly collagen fibers. So the collagen fibers are the tough fibers. So it is made up of tough collagen fibers or fibrous tissues. It is white in color, which is visible from the front side of the eye. That is a or white portion of the eye is a sclera. The white portion on the front of the eye is the sclerotic layer itself, visible through the conjunctiva. Conjunctiva, this is a thin transparent layer. So from this conjunctiva, this sclera is visible in the front part of the eye. It bulges out and becomes transparent in the front region. So this portion is visible, and in the front portion, it bulges outwardly, becomes transparent in the front region where it covers the colored part of the eye. Colored part is the iris. So this is the sclerotic part, and this part is known as cornea. So the sclera or the sclerotic layer in the front part or front region of the eye becomes transparent and then is known as cornea. So just below the conjunctiva there is a cornea. Sometimes the cornea of the retina of a certain patient turns opaque, that is white and non-functional. In such cases, the defective cornea can be replaced by a healthy cornea from a donated eye. So it can be donated by the person and it can be replaced with the donated cornea. Now come to the next layer, that is a middle or the choroid layer. The choroid layer is the middle layer of the eyeball and is composed of three parts. Three parts. This is the choroid layer. This blue line or blue layer, it is the choroid layer. Okay, so it consists of three parts. Choroid, this is the whole portion is choroid. Then ciliary muscles or ciliary body. This one, ciliary body. And next one is the iris. This portion is the iris. So three parts are there in the choroid layer. The choroid is a thin dark brown membrane that lines most of the inner surface of the sclera. So it is a dark brown, but here it is shown by a blue color. It contains several blood vessels, or you can say it is richly supplied with the blood vessels and a large amount of pigment. The choroid absorbs light rays so that they are not reflected within the eyeball. So in this case, you can see it contains a dark black pigment, and that dark black pigments are known as melanin. And this melanin, the function of the melanin is that it prevents the light rays from reflecting. It cannot spread in the eyes or the eyeball. In the front of the eye, in the front portion, again, in the front portion of the eye, the choroid expands to form the ciliary body. This is the ciliary body. It is expands or it is expanded somewhat, or as compared to the other part of the choroid, this part is somewhat expanded, and this is known as ciliary body, which contains circular muscles and the circular muscles. The smooth muscles in the ciliary body alter the shape of the lens. So it consists of two types of muscles, the ciliary muscles and the circular muscles. The ciliary muscles and circular muscles, they control the size of the lens or shape of the lens. Then this is the iris. The iris, in Latin words, it is known as rainbow, is also an extension of the choroid. Another portion of the choroid is extended in the front region, partially covering the lens. Some portion of the lens is covered and leaving a circular opening in the center. This is a circular opening in the center, and this is known as pupil. The blue, brown or black color of the eye refers to the color of the iris. The color of the eye is just because of the color of the iris. So in this case, the color blue color or black color or brown color is just because of the iris. The light enters the eyeball through the pupil, and the iris contains radial and circular muscles. So in this case, the contraction and relaxation of the radial and circular muscles regulates the size of the pupil. The iris contains radial muscles to widen and circular muscles to constrict the pupil. This adjustment of the size of the pupil regulates the amount of light entering the eyes. So when radial muscles contracts, the size of the pupil increases, and when the circular muscles constrict, the size of the pupil or decreases. So this is about the iris. In dim light or dark light, the pupil is dilated, while in a bright light, the pupil becomes or it is constricted. The pattern and arrangement of the iris muscles is unique for every individual, and therefore these are also a source of an individual's identification. I think you have uh, gone through the mm, experience that or you have experienced about the identification of the iris. I think when you have gone for getting the Aadhaar card. Okay, so in this case, the source of identification is the iris. The next layer or the last layer of the eyeball is the retina. Retina is the innermost layer which is sensitive to light, and it is located only in the posterior part of the eye. This is the retina. It is not located in the front part. It is only located on the posterior part of the eyeball. It is the light sensitive layer. It contains light sensitive cells called the rods and cones. Here, this is the retina, and rods and cones photoreceptor cells are present in the retina. The rods and cones, these are the photoreceptor cells. The rod cells are sensitive to dim light. In this case, you can see it is made up of white colored, tough, non-elastic fibrous tissue. It is burst and transparent part in the front region, and it is known as cornea. Then choroid layer, it contains blood vessels for nourishment. Iris is the colored part of the eye. The aperture in the center of the iris is the pupil. Ciliary muscles holds the iris in its place or in its position. Radial and circular muscles help to widen and contract the pupil. Retina. Retina is the innermost light sensitive layer. It contains two types of cells called rods and cones. Rods are sensitive to dim light, do not respond to color. So in this case, the rods are sensitive to dim light, means only dim light. The person can see in dim light with the help of rod cells. They do not respond to color. And rod cells contains pigment rhodopsin, or it is also known as the visual purple. Rod cells are distributed throughout the retina. So these rod cells are distributed throughout the retina. Now come to the next cell, cones. Cones are sensitive to bright light. The cones are responsible for colored vision. Cones also contain a pigment which is known as iodopsin. Cone cells are mostly confined to the yellow spot. It is present, or maximum number of cone cells are present at this spot, which is known as a yellow spot or the fovea centralis or macula. Okay, so I think this much is enough for today, and in the next class, in the next video, I will explain the other part of the eyeball. Okay, so complete your work of nervous system. All the question answers and exercises you have to do in your copy and learn for your second pre-board exam.